and our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth in the flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And I'm the fart bubble in the mud bath, Mike.
I'm Colton.
It's your foreign correspondent, Jill.
And we are back for another one. Before we get into anything, we've got some housekeeping to do. So we're going to kick it over to Colton, and he's going to tell you what's going on.
Yeah, it's just real quick. Basically, we looked at the calendar and realized our 4th anniversary is coming up quicker than expected. So as you're hearing this, I think later in the day, if you're a hardcore listener and you listen as soon as these things are posted, we're going to be putting a post up on all of our social medias calling for any movie submissions. So basically, we're going to do the same thing as the past couple of years, where our listeners will choose whatever movie we're doing for our 4th anniversary. So yeah, we're just asking for people to give in 2 submissions throughout the week of January 22nd. We'll collect them. And then voting will commence on the 30th, and it's just the same as the previous years. There'll be a couple of different rounds. You can just vote in the IG story or the polls on our Twitter, and we'll collect all the data and all the votes, and then, yeah, at the end, there will be a winner. So, should be a lot of fun. It always makes our social media very busy for a week or two, but yeah. Should be good.
Yeah, we'll see if, I keep saying we'll see if Aliens finally gets its time to shine. I think Aliens always comes in at number 2. It always looks like it's going to win, and then it just always gets knocked off by something else. So maybe it's Aliens time. I don't know.
Yeah, I think last year as well, like House of Wax did really well. I think that's like Cecily's baby that she always goes for.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna collaborate with Cecily, and we're gonna try to rig that one. Oops, spoiler alert. Insider trading.
I think Ready or Not, I think, was another one that did really well.
Yeah,
so, yeah. We'll see if they kind of surface again. I'm not gonna do what I did last year and kind of take in the most popular choices, just because it's kind of like, stacking the vote or rigging it a little bit. Obviously they're going to make it to the end. So if people want them, they can vote for them and they can suggest them. And, you can start doing that on the 22nd of January.
Yeah. So make sure you do that. And, we're going to get into what media we have been consuming. What have you been watching? What have you been listening to? What have you been reading? Anything, fellas? So, Jill, we'll start with you.
Last night I watched Zoolander and The Lighthouse.
Nice.
So
what is that double feature?
They really do go together very well. And that's all I got. I've been really busy, so I'm gonna let Rowan do his 40-minute thing over here.
Oh my god, I totally was unprepared.
Same. You guys always do it to me first.
I know, every time.
Wait, I'll pry a little bit. What are your thoughts on The Lighthouse?
Do you guys have an episode on The Lighthouse?
We do.
Maybe we should do an updated version.
Oh my god, a second episode on The Lighthouse. I mean,
yeah.
As an A24 fanboy, I'm fine.
The remix.
I know you are. You're so excited. He's got a half chub right now. Mention The Lighthouse.
One might say he has a lighthouse.
There we go.
Jesus Christ.
But I liked it a lot, is what I'll say. Of course.
All right. I'm somewhat prepared. So we've done a couple now slaying. So I've seen a couple things. All 4 of us saw Megan, not together, but we all saw it and all had our comments on it. So, if you're curious about our opinions, you can listen to that episode that is out. Also, it's already out, so when this episode comes out, it's been out for a while. Me and Colton reviewed Sick, which is the new film on Peacock, written by Kevin Williamson. And yeah, check that out. It's kind of the same as always. I've been going through my list of movies I kind of missed last year and just, pounding through them. The ones that weren't so amazing that I'm not really gonna say anything. I saw My Policeman. I saw Windfall, Uncharted.
Uncharted.
Oh God, it was rough, very rough.
Yes.
Bro, in a video game movie just seems right for some reason.
And I saw Luckiest Girl Alive, which was also not very good. Some notable stuff that I enjoyed. I finally watched Not Okay, which is on Disney Plus. I really enjoyed that one. You know, this will take a second. Just, you know, stop the tapes. So I finally watched Avatar, and then I went to the theater and saw Avatar 2. So I have filled that spot now that all the
Are we going to talk about it?
I mean...
Are you gonna...
Or do you just want to read out the back and forth in the group chat?
So I didn't love the first Avatar. It was all right. Like, I mean, I wasn't, you know, amazed by it. The second one in the theater, I did really enjoy. Like, it looked amazing. I thought, like, there was a little more action to it, I felt, so I was a little more interested. I did like a lot of the underwater stuff, and I enjoyed that more than the forest stuff. So I thought visually it was more interesting. So yeah, I like the second one way better. The first one's just not for me, I guess. I don't really know if I'd revisit either of these just because they're so fucking long. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe in like 10 years.
Dude, I don't know. The first one is so good. I have like a fear of underwater things, so I feel like I'm going to be terrified of the second one. But anyway.
Yeah, I think they're both pretty good. You know, they're the sorts of movies that I give like a 4 out of 5 to, but it's probably just a really good movie with like exceptional special effects most of the time. But it was just Rowan's takes on Avatar were just wild. They were setting me off the other night, and
it's almost like he was trolling you on purpose, but he wasn't.
Yeah, I was just like, I can't believe like the things he's picking out, like the fact that he critiqued Avatar 1 for its story just being boring or being the same thing, but then liked Avatar 2 more, which literally the story, it's like you copy and drag it on the timeline like by like 20 minutes and almost everything lines up again in the second one beat for beat. They even use the same music and same everything for like, in the first one it's the destruction of Home Tree, in the second one it's a different thing that I won't spoil for people, but they use the same music, same everything. Like all the emotional beats of the narrative just line up like perfectly, but for whatever reason,
I mean,
no critiques from Rowan about the story for the second one. So
see, we have a group chat, and Colton kind of ripped Rowan a new one about his hot take on Avatar, and then miraculously Rowan went and saw the new one and loved it. So you know what happened there. Also, Rowan has never seen Shrek, which is amazing.
Yeah, no, I've never seen any of that.
And we're going to have a little bit of Shrek discourse here in a minute when I get into what I've been watching. But yeah, there's a lot of revelations in the It Slays chat behind the scenes. And a lot of it doesn't look good for Rowan, is what I'll say.
So I also watched Day Shift, which was pretty terrible. That's Jamie Foxx, Dave Franco. It's like a action horror comedy that wasn't very good. It's you could like put it on and just ignore it the whole time. It's one of those movies. I saw This Place Rules, which of course I'm like the last one to see it. Then of course I see it, you know, after this guy's like canceled. So
yeah, the sexual misconduct allegations come out, and Rowan's like, yeah, I need to check that movie out. You know, gotta see. I gotta support this guy after the sexual misconduct.
That is 100% the way it always fucking works out.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought it was all right. Like, I mean, it wasn't anything we don't know. America's a shit show. So I was just kind of whatever.
Speaking of, I think there's fireworks going off right now. So if you hear that, I'm sorry. It's like MLK.
MLK.
Jesus. Yeah.
MLK. Wow. Okay. I think there were some good parts in that documentary as well. I like the gotcha moment with the pedophile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's it's a pretty good moment.
That was good.
And starting the documentary off with like just two God, I don't know how to say what exactly these sorts of people are, but these characters in a boxing match was a lot of fun. And as you pointed out, that one old man just championing, you know, how we need our foreskin, you know, just against circumcision, just in the middle of the movie for, 10 minutes. That's something.
He was holding strong onto it.
Yeah, just Yeah, this is something.
I also checked out Terrifier 2 finally, and
Nice.
I thought it was pretty good. It is a little long, longer than it should be, but the gore effects were, I thought, really well done for, the kind of indie movie it is. I thought those were pretty effective. And then I also saw The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent finally, because, we stand Nicolas Cage over here, and I thought that was all right. Like, I laughed, good Nicolas Cage kind of self-aware performance. But what I really want to talk about is the 3 movies I watched that I really enjoyed. So I finally saw The Fabelmans, and I really, really liked it. I wasn't expecting to like it. I love Paul Dano, but, I can't say I was overly interested in, like, this kind of biographical, like, pick of Steven Spielberg. That's, I just wasn't interested.
He's just one of the greatest directors of all time. Why would you be at all interested in him, of course,
I mean, I'm just not interested in his family life, man. Just make my movies. But it was really good. Everyone should see it. I was very surprised. The other thing that, kind of blew everything out of the water that I've watched, Ambulance, Michael Bay, he's back. Shout out friends of the podcast, Willow and Trevor. This was like one of their top movies last year, and it's amazing. If you were like, I wonder what Michael Bay would do if he discovered drones were a thing, then you're gonna love this movie. It's just a camera on a drone for like 2 hours and car chases for 2 hours, and Jake Gyllenhaal just giving a batshit performance. And I really liked it. Like, if you're into just, like, a good heist action movie, I mean, Michael Bay is, kind of the king of those. Or he was, and now he's back.
20 years ago.
I gotta check that one out just because I saw that Willow was just championing this movie. And I don't know, man. I just can't get into watching a Michael Bay movie in 2022. But, there are still a few things I need to check off my list before I make my top 10s list. So I don't know. Maybe I will open my heart to Ambulance. I don't know.
Yeah, you should check it out. And the last thing, I was talking to Colton before everyone jumped on to our cast. So me and Exilia last night watched the documentary Cow from Andrea Arnold from 2021. And it broke me. Me and Exilia both like bawled like babies. It's pretty good. It's a documentary about a dairy cow. It follows like one dairy cow and just kind of, it's this weird, there's like no talking in it. It's literally just the sounds of this farm, but just kind of like cows and how they're treated in these like mass dairy processes and businesses. And yeah, it was heartbreaking. It was.
But fuck dogs, right?
Yeah, no. If it was about dogs, I wouldn't have watched it if it was about dogs. So,
bro, the conversations we had without you there about you and dogs. That's all I'm saying.
I never knew that was directed by Andrea Arnold. I saw like one of her movies at TIFF, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, American Honey. It was just like 3 hours long of a road trip movie. I never realized that she went and did a documentary. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, so I highly suggest to check it out. It seemed to have gotten good reviews when it came out, and it's, it's interesting because, like I said, it follows an animal, but even though it's following a cow, it really has like this feminist lens on it, and just this cow that's used for nothing but like birthing and milking, and like what kind of life actually lives.
Do I need to have seen First Cow in order to understand cow?
I think you're
and
okay.
Is it in the same cinematic universe as Pig?
I haven't seen Pig, but I don't know. Did you cry at the end of Pig? Then maybe.
I didn't. Nick Cage did a lot of crying in that movie, but I was fine.
Oh, okay. Then you might be all right. But yeah, that's everything I watched. How about you, Mike?
I want to say I haven't watched much because it feels like I haven't. Because it was very busy over the last couple weeks because, the fucking holiday season. But thank God that's over. Well, sort of. Anyway, I did actually watch a few movies like you mentioned earlier. We got to see, actually, we excluded Ro. Jill was in town, so me and her and Colton actually got to get together and hang out and go see Megan in theaters, which was phenomenal. They did an episode on it, but I, because of my life, could not be on it. When they were recording it, I was on a bus home, actually. So anyway, I really, really enjoyed that. Spoiler alert. I thought it was
sent in a very elaborate voicemail for us to play on the show.
I did. Yep. Yeah. I was like,
I think it was 5 seconds long, 6 seconds long. You know,
very detailed. It was it got the point across. I thought it was a very fun, campy movie. I thought it was not going to live up to the memes that I had been posting about it for months, and it kind of did. It was not a great movie, like, technically, but am I going to go see it again? Hell yeah. Am I going to buy the Blu-ray when it comes out? Definitely. Am I going to keep posting fan edits of Beyonce songs over the dance until I'm dead?
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Not the wig.
Wig. So I also watched... hilariously, we've mentioned them like 8 times this episode, but with friends of the show, Willow and Trevor, they are always showing me they have the Andy Milligan collection. He's this like kind of obscure director from like the 60s who made a lot of like really cool cult low budget stuff. And every month or so we've been like watching 1 or 2 of his movies, and we watched 2. One was called Vapors, and it actually ended up being one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time. It's like a short movie, and it was shot in the 60s, like Rogue style. It takes place in a gay bathhouse, and they filmed it in a real gay bathhouse, and like under the threat of getting thrown in jail. And it was extremely good. Very, very good. I really enjoyed it. And then we watched one called Seeds, which when we were watching it, I could see like seeds, hilariously, of like the whole series of Arrested Development in it, and all sorts of other like slasher and horror movies, like Mario Bava movies, like Bay of Blood and things like that. It was a really fun movie. They were both really good, and they were really well shot, considering they had budgets of like, I'm sure, a couple $100 each. So yeah, I recommend watching Andy Milligan movies if you get the chance, and there's some really nice box sets out there. And other than that, I've just been watching trash before bed, like Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So nice. Yeah, that's pretty much, that's me in a nutshell. It's not much, but it's all I got. What about you, Colton?
Yeah, as Rowan said, and now Mike has mentioned as well, on Now Slang we covered Megan and Sick, both of which I enjoyed a lot more than I expected. And for my full thoughts, you can just give those episodes a listen if you haven't already. But other than that, as I've also mentioned in passing, I've been kind of just catching up on the last few things for the year of 2022 that I need to see before I make my annual top 10 films list. And I just figured I'd pick 2 that I actually watched that I really enjoyed, rather than just going into the 10 or 12 different movies I've watched in the last 2 weeks. So first up is Aftersun, which I think Rowan may have briefly discussed on the show a few weeks back, but he was nowhere near as hot on it as I am. I think the movie's excellent. It's an autobiographical coming-of-age drama following an 11-year-old girl and her father as they vacation in the early 2000s. And it's just a really quiet, like, gentle film focusing on the smaller, more intimate moments most people share with their parents as they're growing up and when they're coming into adolescence, and how those moments have passed us by, and in most cases we'll never experience them again. So the performances put forth by Frankie Corio and Paul Mescal read as honest, like, authentic portrayals of this father-daughter relationship. Like, I completely bought into it the entire movie. Like, I haven't seen either of them before. I know Rowan saw Paul Mescal in, was it Normal People? Yeah, so for me, I completely, I don't think I've seen him in anything. So it was just, I completely bought him as this father character.
He's and also your new Gladiator.
Well,
I thought you were going to say
I saw
Daddy.
that as well in like the prequel or sequel movie or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if that actually gets made, but I think it's just kind of a testament to Charlotte Wells' skills as a director that in her feature debut, she's able to capture these performances, but also capture what winds up being a very melancholy time in her like young life. Yeah, it was just super impressive. I don't really want to say too much else about the movie because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's even vaguely interested in seeing it. So if any of this that I've kind of rambled on about sounds at all interesting to you, be sure to check out After Sun and to have your tissues on hand because, I was gutted, I think, in the credits.
Okay, so I was going to go see this in theaters, and now I'm contemplating whether I should, because I don't want to make a mess in public.
Well, this was the type of thing I had to go see coffee or go to coffee with a friend. Like, basically, I schedule it. I was like, I have 2 hours. I can watch this, then go for coffee. Yeah. I messaged them, and I was like, give me a half hour, dude. I just watched another A24 banger, and I'm a mess. So
fair. Okay.
So yeah, plan around that a little bit, but yeah, if you can see it in theaters, you should definitely see it in theaters. It's one of those movies that you kind of just have to live in. Like, you can't be on your phone all the time. You can't be distracted. You kind of just got to experience the moments with the characters. Yeah. And yeah, I very much enjoyed it. And then on the other end of the cinematic spectrum, but in my opinion, equally as good, in its own way, I watched Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and the sequel to, the 2011 Shrek universe spin-off film, Puss in Boots. And I'm not joking. This movie is also very good. It was in production hell for 5 years before it was restarted entirely by one of the directors of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So if you've seen that movie, this thing has to be good because that movie's also excellent. And much like Into the Spider-Verse, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish sheds just leans more into this more excited animated style. Like, it gets rid of the hyper, photorealistic style that Disney Pixar movies go for, and by shedding that and getting rid of it, it just makes it a far more exciting movie. Every single shot can be planned to make it as exciting and engaging as possible. So it's constantly you're being treated to just all these new frames and all these new ideas and all these new styles, and it's just endlessly engaging. Basically, this movie makes use of numerous techniques that comic book artists have been using for decades, has sequences that look like they're ripped straight out of anime or manga if you're into that sort of thing. It has numerous cinematic references to things like Mad Max, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and strangely the credit sequence of True Detective, which when I was watching, I was like, I think they're doing True Detective right now, and this is a fucking Shrek spin-off movie. I was just shocked. God. And then, funnily enough, the story is pretty dark. It's focused on mortality and features an absolutely terrifying bounty hunting villain whose sole purpose is to claim the last of Puss in Boots' 9 lives and put an end to the hero for good. So yeah, the movie surprisingly just kicks ass. It goes way harder than any Puss in Boots movie ever should. And just so I didn't completely waste our listeners' time, Florence Pugh in the movie is the voice of Goldilocks. And she's kind of one of the main pillars of the movie. She's probably the B story of the movie. So
nice tie-in.
Yeah. So I figured, if you like Midsummer, give Puss in Boots: The Last Wish a try, It's a similar sort of thing.
What's going on here right now?
Yeah, but yeah, no, I very much enjoyed it. And if you like animated movies as well, you'll enjoy it as well. And I mean, there's a reason why this thing is in the top 10 narrative films on Letterboxd for the year 2022. It's very good. I was shocked. So yeah, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Give it a watch. But yeah, that's basically all I've been watching. So
sponsored.
Let's get on with the review.
All right, so we're gonna get into the movie for this evening. It was Colton's pick. Taking us back to 1978, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Let's get into the trailer, then we'll get into the synopsis and first experiences.
From deep space.
Space flower?
Why not a space flower?
The seed is planted.
Why do we always expect metal ships?
It smells lovely.
Put it down, Jack.
Terror grows. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Leonard Nimoy. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Rated PG. Starts this week at a theater near you.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers was directed by Philip Kaufman and written by W.D. Richter, and the story is as follows. As small pods with pink flowers begin appearing throughout San Francisco, Elizabeth Driscoll, a scientist within the city's health department, decides to take one home for a closer look. But when she awakes the next morning to find her boyfriend acting strange and the pod itself missing, she confides in her close friend and colleague Matthew Bennell that something is up. Although Matthew initially dismisses Elizabeth's claims, the discovery of multiple mutilated corpses soon reveal that this isn't an exercise in hysterics, but in fact, an alien invasion. one where it's not so easy to find people you can trust, but far easier to find those who have been snatched.
So we're going to talk about our first experiences. Have we seen the movie? Is this our first time? Or do we have a collection of pods, or as I like to call them, spicy space pickles, all on our shelves? So, Colton, you picked the movie. Is this your first time seeing it?
I don't like that, Rowan. Spicy space pickles? I don't know. But no, it's not my first time seeing it. I'm not like a diehard fan of the movie or anything. I haven't seen it like numerous times, but I have watched it, and I've watched a couple of other movies that were like inspired by it. But yeah, basically I've heard it discussed on other podcasts, and basically they were like, oh, if you're a horror fan, you have to give, 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers a watch. So yeah, I watched it a few years back and had it in the rotation, and as our listeners may have heard, it just randomly was chosen this time, so here we are. What about you, Jill? Is this your first time watching?
I saw bits and pieces of it, I think on TV one time, but I didn't sit down. I mean, it's kind of long, so I don't think I was able to like really digest the whole thing. So this is my first like intentional watch, but I did see bits and pieces of it. It did remind me of a short story that I read the past year. It's called I think it's called The Hanging Stranger, if you've read that. Yeah, same sort of principle with like aliens and pod people. And if you're into reading, maybe check that out. But yeah, what about you, Mike?
This was not my first time. I saw it like you on TV, weirdly, which is not really that weird because there's not really a lot in it that like you would have to edit out. A couple of like little minor nipple shots, and that's probably about it. And maybe cut down for time. So I'm sure like the first time I watched it, there was, some extraneous sort of like random shit cut out. But yeah, I saw it when I was like probably 14 or 15 on TV. It was like one of those nights when I was just like staying up watching shit, probably on Showcase or whatever. And
yes.
Yeah, and it just came on, and I was like, oh yeah, I've heard a lot about this, and like I was like, oh, Donald Sutherland, love him. So I just figured I'd give it a watch, and was not prepared. And actually, no, and funny enough, I should kind of go back a little bit. When I saw this version of it, because really there's a lot of versions of the same story, but like really there's kind of like three, like I guess official adaptations.
Yeah.
There was one in the 50s of the novel, and then this one in the 70s, and then there was one in the early 90s. And I had actually seen, again on TV, the one from the 90s. Actually, no, my friend might have even showed it to me. I think she owned it or something. But anyway, I'd seen it around the same time, and then I really enjoyed it. And even though it's like a little bit trashy. Or maybe because. But anyway, yeah, then this was on TV, and I was like, oh my god, it's the 70s version, Donald Sutherland, like, I have to see it. And I, like, remember watching it and just being, like, fucking gobsmacked. And I think it was one of those movies that, like, kind of, like, left such a mark on me in a way by the time it was over, that over the years, I really, instead of being one of those movies that I put on all the time, and I think because it does kind of have a bit of slow burn, I would pick and choose when I watched it. Like if somebody said, oh, I've never seen that, but I always wanted to, I'd show it to them. So maybe I saw it like 3 times over the years. Mm-hmm. But it has been a very long time since I've watched it. So I really enjoyed kind of revisiting it again tonight. And now I'm going to throw it over to Ro, who I forgot existed. I'm sorry.
Again.
Yeah, no, this is my first time seeing it. Obviously, I feel like kind of everybody, it's always been on my radar to watch. I've never sat down and watched it. I've seen, like we said, there's lots of versions of this or kind of retellings. To me, I think the most popular one in my age group would be The Faculty, which is essentially this story just redone for some trash teens. Yeah, so I had never seen this before. I.e. me. I love The Faculty. We reviewed that one, and we all know our love for that. So, yeah. But yeah, this was the first time watching it. I was pretty pumped to watch it, because it's always on lists of iconic movies and stuff. So now we will get into the meat and potatoes of things. We know where we're starting. Our favorite kill and or favorite scene. Mike, you can go first. I never forget you.
You wouldn't. I'm sorry. I lay myself at the altar of our humble host and hope that you will forgive me. I can't even pick because there's like so many moments in it that I really enjoy and that are very incredibly memorable or creepy or cool or scary. But one scene that I really, really liked this time was the bathhouse scene when they first go there. And I think that's why I, did that as my little intro. Also because I was just like, oh my god, that old man is just farting in the mud. I call it bathhouse. Is it called a bathhouse? Anyway, yeah. But the mud baths. So. The mud baths.
Spa, whatever. Yeah.
The spa, yeah. I really enjoyed that scene because it really, like, kind of took it out of the city and, like, larger groups and, like, big, like, government buildings and things that we had been in so far and started closing in more on a small group. It expanded the core group, but it sort of like isolated them a bit and put it in a more kind of like quiet setting. And I just thought that and it intercuts it with when Donald Sutherland is breaking into the house. And I just thought that was like a really cool scene, switching back and forth. And I thought that it was kind of like a masterclass. It was like really good at building this sense of dread, especially because at that point we know essentially like the viewer understands what's happening. And I just thought it was really like atmospheric and just dreadfully, in the literal sense of the word, like agonizingly, like kind of drawn out and suspenseful and just super creepy. I remember I was watching it and I was like, the first time I saw it, I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen here. And yeah, I just really, and I like the cutting back and forth between that. And it's like the scene where they really like explicitly sort of see like the duplicate body for the first time, even if they don't understand that that's what it is initially. And then it cuts to like, that scene of like the rescue. And I thought it was really cool.
It's probably the most iconic like mud bathhouse scene until Howard the Duck.
Until Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck very clearly inspired by Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh God.
I would be willing to bet if you look at the commentary of the Criterion edition of Howard the Duck, that 100% Stanley Kubrick admits, yes, I ripped off Invasion of the Body Snatchers for Howard the Duck, my masterpiece. What about you, Ro?
It was George Lucas.
I'm lobbing it at you.
I think he was making a joke at,
it's a bad joke. Give George Lucas the respect.
Leave Stanley Kubrick's name out of your mouth.
And he didn't forget you this time. He threw it back to you.
I know, he threw it right back to me. He threw me off guard.
I'm lobbing. I'm ignoring everybody now because of you.
So I don't really have a favorite kill. I do have a favorite scene, and it was pretty apparent to me when we got to it. I really love the scene. Donald Sutherland, he's kind of like walking downtown, and we have this like frenetic camera shots, and it's just like frantic, and the camera's like upside down, then back to normal view, sideways. It's going all over the place. And Donald Sutherland's just kind of like in this terror and like realizing what's going on, and can you trust anybody? You're looking at different people. You're trying to figure out, are they snatched? Are they, are these replicas?
Are they snatched?
That's right.
They are snatched. They all look amazing.
And yeah, I just really like that. I thought the tension was really built up well with that. And that is my favorite scene in it. And like I said, I didn't overly have a favorite kill. There's not a lot of kills in this. Kind of on screen of actual people. Jill, we'll go to you. What is your favorite scene and or kill?
Okay, I'm going to go with my favorite scene, which is when we start to see the pod people emerging from the pods. I thought that was pretty cool. And I don't know, something about it was just like very unsettling, seeing the slime, see them covered, and then like they could open an eye, and then everyone else's reaction to seeing that they're coming out of pods, or, you know, spicy pickle, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know. I really like that and the whole pod people thing. It's very like, you know, of that time, the 70s, and it's very like American. I don't know. Something about it. It's a cool vibe, and I like it. Anyways, what about you, Colton?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've had 3 separate favorite scenes here, and I don't think we've mentioned any of them, but I think I'll go with the very simple one. The pug with the human face, I think is what I'll mention. Yeah. Because the first time I was watching this movie, like, obviously we all know the ending shot of, you know, the scream and the point. You know, it's an absolutely iconic shot. But what I haven't heard people talk about too often is the pug with the human face. And that was like a fucking jump scare the first time I watched this movie. I was like, what is going on? Then obviously this time as I was watching it, he does kick the pod next to it, and you see the blood come out, and the man is laying down next to his dog. So it's kind of like making a combination of them, right? But it was just so off-putting. It's very startling. I'm not really expecting it. The movie doesn't linger on it for long. It's the only example, to my knowledge, in the movie of kind of like an imperfect pod person. So yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's like always a shock when it pops up, because also, like, as we've kind of mentioned a couple times, this movie is fairly long. It's like an hour and 55 minutes. So it's kind of like there are portions of the movie where it kind of loses me for a bit, or I don't feel like the tension or like the kind of the narrative thrust. So it's like, man, when is that pug with the human face going to show up? You know, like, where is this in the last half hour of the movie? And yeah, when he showed up, I was like, yeah, there it is. You know, I remembered that. Yeah, I'm going to go with the pug with the human face.
Yeah, I did love that scene. I mean, overall, just kind of with you and Jill's answer, like, the movie, the special effects were actually way better than I was expecting when I was watching this. You know, when I think of like special effects, like good practical special effects, like obviously the 80s are kind of like come to everyone's mind in terms of horror. I never overly think about the 70s in terms of like gross out or just weird special effects. So that dog like definitely threw me for one, because I was like, this is something that would be in like a John Carpenter movie.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And
the
thing, like, and just even the bodies in general, just like the sliminess and like
the hairiness.
The hairiness for sure. The what was it with like white fur? I felt like maybe I should know more about plants, because I was like, is this like a normal plant thing or?
Yeah, I didn't know 100% how to describe it either. Like, when I was writing the little synopsis, I was trying to figure out, what do I call that stuff that's like, it's almost like hair
like
or webbing or webbing. Like, there's in the movie, there's a spider colonies fall from the sky. It's across like the front page of the newspaper.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the in-universe explanation why like there's a bunch of dump trucks going around with like what looks like web in the back of them. You guys noticed it, right? Like literally the dump trucks in the movie like half a dozen times. Okay. I was going to say like first time I made
like
note of it.
pull up to the, I watched this with a friend of mine who didn't know anything about it. I'd never seen it before.
Okay.
And at one point at the beginning, the dump truck pulls up to the house right after her boyfriend gets changed, and he just like dumps it in the back. And my friend was like, what the fuck? It's like they ordered that, you know, garbage truck. And I'm like, just watch it. Just watch it.
And then he was like, what the fuck? Why is the garbage truck stalking them the entire movie?
Yeah, right,
why is it always there? Yeah. But no, I agree, Rowan. I think the special effects are pretty great. And I went back and I watched the 1955, 1956 version as well the day after. And it actually has pretty good special effects as well. Like, they use a lot of like miniature stuff and like forced perspective camera work. But it's pretty great when I was watching it as well. Like, there's loads of people like carrying like the pods like in the movie, which I just feel like when I was watching this, I was like, damn, this is a fairly expensive movie, because you got, I don't know, 50 extras carrying these models of pods and stuff, right? And they all look good. They're all designed. Like, there's not like, oh, that one's clearly like a balloon or something, you know? Like, they're all they're all well designed. So yeah, I thought the special effects were pretty good as well. And like I said, they even hold up in the earlier adaptation.
Nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, I was pretty surprised, because all I really knew about this movie was that Donald Sutherland was the star of it. I didn't know anyone else that was in the movie.
Oh my god, it's packed.
Jeff Goldblum, excuse me?
Young,
I didn't know.
Jeff Goldblum.
I didn't know, yeah. never aging Jeff Goldblum. I was like, man, he looks just as sexy.
Wow.
But yeah, like this is one of the rare times like I didn't go on my phone, open the letterbox, like when I turned it on. So I was like, I'm gonna be fully immersed in this.
Very proud.
Yeah, and I was surprised because also not only do we get Jeff Goldblum, we get Leonard Nimoy, and I was like,
oh yeah,
I was like, fuck, like, I mean, I'll never complain when I get Leonard Nimoy, that isn't in Star Trek. Something in, although I do love Star Trek. I mean,
wearing beautiful salty dog sweaters.
Oh yeah, his outfits were wild. They were amazing.
Doing very Freudian, you're a hysterical woman.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say we gotta touch on that as well, and also
well, we will. Trust me.
He's kind of a quack, and he doesn't really watch where he's putting his hands when he's around women all the time in the movie as well. It's very much like a '70s portrayal of look how cool this guy is. And he's fondling all the women all in his vicinity.
Yeah.
What a stud.
And then I noticed I think he's credited as the running man, Kevin McCarthy. He's the one that runs up to Donald Sutherland's car and then ends up getting hit by the car. This is kind of a low-key show for those that know, but he is like the evil TV executive in Weird Al's movie UHF. He's like the villain of that movie. But he's also like in The Howling and Piranha. And all
right.
So definitely some pedigree. And then I know Mike will be all about this. Brooke Adams, which It Slays podcast alumni, also one of the co-stars of The Stuff. Also just iconic, but like she's in so much stuff. She's in like Dead Zone. I can't even think. Dead Zone's what's coming to my mind. Shockwaves. But she's been in a bunch of like
Dead Zone's a good one, actually.
70, 80 stuff that I've seen. But yeah, just like a powerhouse cast that I was not expecting.
Okay,
what you didn't mention about. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just gonna say, you mentioned some random ass fucking person from a Weird Al Yankovic movie who is in the movie for 30 fucking seconds, and you do not mention Scream Queen Veronica Cartwright, who has been in like 8 movies that we've done on this podcast.
Yeah, Veronica was in there.
The disrespect, Rowan.
I'm sorry.
Right, and she is literally the catalyst of that final intense scene that nobody will ever forget for the rest of their lives. But that's fine. Yeah. Just leave her out. That's fine.
The one thing I wanted to mention, you never mentioned about the guy running up to the car, is that's like another paying homage to the original movie. Because basically the original movie, it's a frame narrative where it's basically like a doctor is kind of getting taken in and he's like questioned about like, he seems to be crazy. He's talking about pod people and aliens and all this shit. And it's a big flashback. And he basically goes through the whole movie up to that point when he gets taken. And basically right at the end of the movie, he's running in the streets and he's going, please, they're coming. And he's like banging on all the windows. He's like, they're coming. And he's like freaking out.
Really?
And it's like a full on like homage to that. So once again, I never knew that until I went back and watched the other one. I was like, oh, that's why that guy is in there. Like it's just, they're paying homage, They're pointing it out.
That's a very cool scene, too. I like that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I was going to say, too, probably weirdest profession for a leading character.
Oh, 100%. and I was just like, early on in the movie when Donald Sutherland comes out and his windshield is smashed and all that, he doesn't even, like, bat an eye. He's just like, oh, yeah, this happens to me all the time. He hops in, doesn't say anything. He just works from the health department. I'm like, damn, is working for the health department that rough? It's just like, holy shit, dude.
I mean, we could watch Larry the Cable Guy. Health inspector.
Oh, maybe I should.
Yeah,
I believe it because years ago, someone posted that you can look at all the like health inspectors reports for restaurants here. Like that's on the government website, like in detail. So I literally spent like 2 solid days just like drinking beer and like reading through the health reports for all these like sketchy restaurants around the city, and the shit that I read was like so disturbing, and I was like, 100% I believe that this man gets his life threatened every day and is just absolutely it's not even fazed by it anymore. He's like, oh, my tires are slashed, my house is on fire. Yeah, it's a Thursday.
I just loved it because they made it like this guy was like bigger than a rock star. Like he was connected to everyone. Like, you know, celebrity psychiatrists are inviting him to their parties and
True. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Poets
was just
or
wild.
whatever, yeah.
He somehow just had like a direct link later on in the movie. He's like, I gotta call like the White House. And it's like, oh yeah, this
he's like, get the mayor on the line. Like,
he's just a government servant, okay? He said that many times.
He did say that. I was like, I don't think the word government servant has been in a movie. That not even documentaries about government servants has been used that many times. But I mean, it's Donald. I mean, Donald gives you that big D energy, big Donald energy.
I have a thing here about theme of sacrificing of emotions, not wanting to deal with issues. It's easier to live in apathy than suffering. And then at that scene where they're like injecting other people with it, it kind of gave me the question, like, is it worth it to sacrifice bad emotions and simultaneously the good ones? Which is like part of being human, which is the part they sacrifice to become these pod people. But yeah, what do you guys think of that?
I think you should watch the show Severance if that's something you're really interested in, because that's a huge theme of that show. But I think that's in there 100%.
I was gonna say, I don't know. The question for me wouldn't be whether I'd want to or not. It would be whether I'd have the energy to do all that running and fighting. So I feel like I'd last like 20 minutes and I'd be like, fuck, guess I'm just gonna become a pod person now.
Oh, were you specifically asking us would we become a pod person or remain a human, Jill? Or were you just asking us thematically about the thought?
I was talking about thematically, but sure, you can take it that direction.
Okay, so
I would
Rowan
100% kill myself.
So he'll become a pod person, yeah, I guess.
Okay. What about you? I feel like you would fight.
Yeah, I would fight, but then it also winds up basically being a thing of like, oh, are my friends and family already pod people as well? And, you know, we're in a hive mind collective, you know, we can still hang out, we can chat, we can, you know, I can get the bad Avatar takes just through, like, you know, the collective unconscious. So, I don't know. I mean, I certainly would be a fighter, but I don't know. There winds up being a point where it's like, oh, if the whole world is pod people and you're the last man, I don't know how fun that is either. Not that I'd make it that far, but, you know, I'd be a fighter, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be very much like Omega Man.
I was going to say, would you want to be a pod person, go to work every day, Mike? You know, would make it easier, you know? Just...
I mean, listen, it's something to contemplate in a way.
Yeah.
If you were going to be happy, being a slave to capitalism and shit anyway, then, oh God, I don't know. But like you said, it would 100% depend on, like, whether everybody else was, because I'm like, if I have to just, like, watch movies and play games and shit by myself and drink by myself, then I'd just be like, okay, why not? What kind of life is this?
It's like the would you jump off a bridge question, right? It's like, well, I mean, everybody else jumps off the bridge. There's nobody left to jump off the bridge. I don't know, probably. If everyone else is fine, sure.
Yeah, we live in a society, as someone very wise once said. Oh, God. We live in a society. We are not an island.
I was going to say, too, I guess kind of jumping off of Jill's thing about themes. I was thinking about themes because, you know, I was thinking... You know, when we talked about the faculty and we, you know, obviously all these kind of body snatch movies have this like strong theme about like conformity and all that kind of stuff. But I was very interested because there was like a lot of passing by things they said in the movie that I was like interested on their take on conformity. Like there was some talk about like the family unit, like, you know, they didn't say a nuclear family, but that's kind of like what they were talking about.
Well, yeah, because he screams about the family unit is shot to hell.
Well, and there was just like weird comments like that. I did laugh a bit where I forget who they were talking about, but they were talking about like they think they think he's been he's been got by the pod people, and I think it was like Leonard Nimoy or someone, and they were just like, oh, what, he's a Republican now?
Oh my God, that was so good.
And I was dying laughing.
Yeah, there was some nice digs there.
Yeah, I was like, even in the 70s, we're still digging. I did one of my notes was, I thought it could have been cool, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but they didn't really use it. So they spent all that time at the beginning about Brooke Adams like doing the eye thing.
Yeah, it never comes up.
And it literally never comes up, because I saw it and I'm like, okay, this is how we know.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm thinking, you know,
there's a deleted scene.
Yeah, and I thought, okay, what's going to happen is at the end, she's going to get taken. We're going to know because she can't do the eye thing, you know, or she'll do the eye thing and pretend she's taking him.
Yeah, or the other way. Yeah, exactly. Now, when that scene came up, did we all try and do the eye thing? Because I remember specifically in high school, I used to be able to do that eye thing, and I don't know if I can anymore. I was afraid I was going to have a stroke when I was trying it last night. So
yeah, I can't do anything like that. My eyes are they hurt too much.
Yeah, it's so creepy. I hated that scene. I was like, that's so creepy, and I also expected it to come up, and it never did.
Because it's so specific, right? It's so specific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was almost like they planned on it. And then it was just kind of like, we forgot, even though we made this like a 2-hour movie, we just kind of forgot to do it.
I would like to see a commentary or something, because I'm willing to bet, like, or if there's like a earlier draft of the screenplay, there's definitely like a callback to that. There has to be. This movie is too like well made for it to just be like, oops, we left that in there, and there was not ever going to be any callback to it. Like, there has to be. I'm convinced.
It'd be interesting if, like, the government agencies or something, like, had a way to check if you were a pod person, something to do with the eyes, you know, like shining it in the eyes or something. That'd be...
Oh, yeah,
it'd be neat. Yeah, yeah, once again, like everyone said, I expected it to come back again for sure.
Well, and I kind of felt like there was like a couple plot points like that they kind of dropped. Yep. Like, I mean, as much as I love seeing Jeff Goldblum in a movie, like, boy, was his character like not fleshed out or explained very well. I'd say he's playing the Jeff Goldblum character in this, but like, you know, he's kind of like this conspiracy theorist, a little like erratic and emotional and loud, but like we're never really.
But he's an artist. He's like a poet or something, right?
Well, this is my question. So they keep talking about he's trying to write poetry, but they do in a couple of shots make it a point that he's got a U.S. Army shirt on. Like on his shirt, on the pocket of the shirt, it says U.S. Army. So then I was like, okay, well, is he like ex-military, like he's a soldier that's like come back from a war, or like, you know, what's the deal with this? It just didn't make any sense. He had like this hatred of Leonard Nimoy's character that like we have no idea why, other than he's just like, he's a hack, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And
yeah, but he's this like medical establishment. It's like big pharma, like the medical industrial complex.
Yeah, but I was like, what the fuck does that have to do with
poetry? He's clearly a bit of a hippie left over from the 60s.
Yeah.
I think he's supposed to be like a hipster character. Like,
I think so too. He's like ex-pod people, like ex-military in that way, ex-pod, and that's why he's like kind of taking a stand against this. And same thing with the Elizabeth character.
Yeah,
right. She was very caring, and like her boyfriend wasn't. He was kind of a dick and like never paid her any attention, and then immediately he becomes a pod person sleeping next to like this flower. But she's such a more caring person, and it takes her like a lot longer, you know what I mean? So I wonder if that is a thing as well, maybe.
Yeah, she had more to lose, like in terms of her emotional like well-being, her emotional like the structure of her like psyche, I guess, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Her emotional house had more levels to it. His was like a sleeping bag on the floor. I did love the like touch of, because this would have been, I guess, like probably, you know, still in the like early days of like people sitting at home with their headphones on. I really like, they already like signaled in on that's like today, if they remade that movie now, he'd be like the fucking husband sitting in the corner watching Ben Shapiro like YouTube videos with the headphones on, but it's kind of like the same thing in the 70s.
I thought that was cool because I've never seen, like, were those wireless? Like, I never got a good like glance at those, but they can't be wireless in the 70s, right? Like,
no, definitely not.
Yeah,
but like, every time I've ever seen a pair of headphones like from that era, it has had like a cord that was, not even joking, like 20 feet long.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes more sense.
It's funny that you brought that up, Mike, because I think it was also because, the day before I watched this, me and Colton had, reviewed and watched Sick. And I kept thinking, I'm like, this is probably like every anti-vaxxer's like favorite movie now. I was like, I'm surprised there's not like 800 memes about how if we're vaccinated, we're pod people or something.
Oh my God.
Yes. Okay, hang on. I just need to throw out there, do not think that what I was saying, medical establishment, etc., that I'm like some anti-vaxxer. I'm not. But I'm just saying, like, from the
yes, he is.
Larger, grander scale of, anyway.
That's right. It's exactly what he's saying. He's lying to all of you.
I like Mike being a supporter of Big Pharma, just loving it.
This podcast is brought to you by Pfizer.
There we go.
I always think it's interesting, especially, I think about, and not even like the COVID stuff, just, in the general 2000s, as we've gone on with the internet, like so much of the old media, like kind of being hijacked in this conspiracy theory and, like the Orwell stuff and all that kind of stuff. And then, I just think it was interesting because, in 78, like these kind of conspiracy theorists, like that was kind of like, they weren't like these crazy people they were crazy, but we were more sympathetic to them.
Well, you were coming off the 60s, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. So I just thought that was really interesting. This is going to be really sad. What interested me the most when I watched this, when you talked about the headphones, was that the guy was watching a basketball game, and I had to make sure I looked up and tried to figure out what basketball game he was watching.
Dear Lord.
My sports bro came out. What's sad is, for my basketball heads, I figured it out. Nowhere is it listed. I just had to figure out, they would have shot this in 76, 77. It came out in 78. It is the Golden State Warriors, because I also didn't know where this movie took place. I don't know if they ever said.
Oh,
San Francisco,
California.
Yeah. It's very
Oh, did they?
The pier. The pier is a part of it. What do you mean?
Yeah,
I don't know anything
literally,
about
I was
San
like,
Francisco.
the city is like a character practically.
I mean, that's where Pokemon Go is hopping, because of all those piers. They're all like gyms and Pokestops. So
I don't know anything about
that,
Pokemon
and
Go.
the people, fucking anonymously there. But anyway,
I think people that play Pokemon Go might be pod people.
Oh, shots fired.
There's a theory.
But yeah, so I figured it out. That makes sense because it was the Golden State Warriors. Because actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I did know, because he mentions that it's the Warriors in the movie, and I figured that. So it just kind of
a waste of research. Just
this is.
You thought you were doing something, weren't you?
I know, but I figured they must have been playing the Los Angeles Lakers, and they lost that playoff, so it
that's
didn't
why
really
he was
matter.
so pissed.
Yeah, I mean, so he just gave up and became a pod person.
Might as well.
I mean, if your team doesn't win, you might as well just submit and completely conform.
Yeah. Leafs fans. Just become a pod person.
Mike's like, go sports.
I'm like, I don't know what language you're speaking now, but I enjoy it.
The other thing I did want to bring up was I kind of brought up in my favorite scene was just, I was very surprised at the cinematography of the whole. It was very well shot, amazing. Amazing.
God, one of my biggest notes are the cinematography just feels completely uninspired.
Oh, no.
I hated it.
Jesus.
I hated it. It was all shaky cam. None of it was well framed, in my opinion. It was just a bunch of nonsense. Felt like people running around with cameras the entire time. I did not enjoy the cinematography.
I kind of am sitting between both of you. I totally get where you're coming from with that, but there was a couple of really cool shot moments, so I think those are just sticking in Ro's head as
I felt they gave me the feeling of paranoia and just kind of this descent into madness. I felt the shaky cam worked. So you know what? Shout out, I looked it up. Michael Chapman, who, man, this guy's heavy duty. Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, The Lost Boys.
Yeah, but both those are Scorsese. All right.
Yeah.
Just,
he was the cinematographer on those.
Yeah, I know.
Don't forget,
but
you're
the director
talking
has a
to an
lot to say in
auteurist here.
the style
Yeah,
of
I
the
know.
movie.
I'm just saying. I thought it looked good. Me and Colton can agree to disagree like we do with everything.
Yeah, I think it was well lit. I liked the lighting.
The next sentence out of my mouth was going to be the whole third act is underlit. Like, it's just basically black, grubby nothingness for the whole third act.
Well, I mean, it's better lit than any Marvel movie that's come out in 10 years, so...
Also true.
Well, that can be true, and it doesn't mean that it's still well lit, though. I mean, it's just...
No,
it could be accurate.
We will agree to disagree. That's fine.
Okay, children, can we talk about the soundtrack? Because there was a really fire portion. Was it bagpipes or...
Oh, yeah.
Was it bagpipes?
Yeah.
Wow,
Hallelujah
that's all I gotta
bagpipes,
say.
Right? Is it Hallelujah?
Yeah, it was so good. That was actually a really good scene.
Amazing Grace.
Amazing Grace.
Whatever
not
it was.
Hallelujah, yeah, on the bagpipes.
So good, I can't remember it, but I was vibing during that part.
You're just jamming.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect as well, because they're just equating like musical prowess with being human, but then obviously it's like even the pod people have kind of like adapted that and like can replicate it, or at least turn on a sick track, you know? It's the same in the 50s version, actually, like because in that version they escape into like the mines, and they're kind of hiding out in the mines, and they kind of creep out when it's daylight and kind of listen, and they hear music as well.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, and they take it as like okay, we can leave now. We can, we hear the music, and it's the same thing in that one. It's like the man runs off and comes back, and it's like, oh my God, she fell asleep type of thing, right? But it's so funny because for me, the cinematography stood out as just a very sore point, because I get what Rowan's saying, like that it adds into the paranoia, but it's like, okay, well, what about the 30 or 40 minutes before it's like supposed to be incredibly hectic that is all poorly shot? But the 50s one is like all beautifully shot, because most of it is like outside during the day and whatnot, and you get like these huge like vistas and like hills and rolling hills with the clouds and shit in the background. It looks great because it's also in like a small town instead of a big city, so they had to like work with what they were given, and yeah, it looks great. So yeah, I guess just agree to disagree. But also I got a note on the score that I thought like the throbbing bass line score was pretty good. Like, I don't know, it was pretty minimalistic, but that to me worked in like ratcheting up the tension or making it a little bit more anxious as well.
Yeah, the throbbing.
Yeah.
That's probably what you liked about it.
What the fuck, Jill?
I'm sorry.
No, I did. And one of the reasons why I loved that, again, going back to the like spa scene, the mud baths, and they were arguing about the music, which obviously was like, to point out the humanness of music, but also the way that like, plants also like the music. Yes, so, obviously they're going to do bagpipe music because everything is plants now. But I really liked the music that they were playing there. And I just feel like the whole, and then they were talking about books. I really liked the whole like artsy 70s, like kind of like, as we were saying, like a little bit of a hippie vibe, but they really didn't like dwell on it enough for me. Like, I feel like there was lots of stuff that was dwelled on in this that was like so boring. I'm not saying it was a boring movie, obviously it was amazing, but like I was like, I feel like in talking about other art, they could have highlighted some of their themes a little bit better as well. But I really like that because I thought that scene was probably going to drag on for longer, and they were going to like talk about all these writers that they were arguing about for 2 seconds, and then it just went nowhere. But that's fine. But I really love the music. Beautiful gowns.
Yeah, I don't know why, but that whole scene really reminded me of another kind of party scene from Altered States at the beginning of Altered States.
Oh my God, Altered States.
Where it's like kind of, these like professionals and academics, and kind of like they're having these like, conversations about art and like, intellects and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it definitely gave me the same kind of vibe on that one.
What do we think about Elizabeth breaking her ankle after stepping about 6 inches onto the ground? What do we think about that? So she can get carried around for most of the third act.
My friend lost it when that happened. He was like, he was talking about it for the whole rest of the movie. Even after she was gone, he was like, oh, remember when she broke her fucking ankle?
It was so goofy. And once again, I was like, why do we need this? Like, why did she have to be carried around? And then I searched it up, and the original cover of the novel has like him carrying this like limp woman in his arms, and he's like this big strong man. And then in the 50s one as well, she just faints. Like she gets so scared that or overwhelmed that she faints, and then he has to carry her around a bunch. So it's like, okay, once again, it's paying homage, but it's also like, you can leave things behind if it just makes no sense. Like, she literally breaks it from, like, a regular step, almost, and it's kind of
You can't leave her behind. She's an important character.
No, I'm not saying leave her behind, but she doesn't have to
you
break
just
her
said
ankle.
Leave her behind.
No.
But...
You can leave certain aspects, like these old
right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no,
behind.
not like physically leave her behind.
Oh, right.
I'm saying you didn't have to carry her around for the last 20 minutes. You could have just let her actually injure her leg in a realistic way, or just leave that storytelling, story aspect out.
That was a choice because they were trying to be like, we're not going to make her such a damsel in distress that she's going to faint like a total puss bag. So she's going to hurt her ankle and be more dramatic and annoying about it. Do you think that was like what happened?
Like fucking boot it down a street and jump into a friggin' transport truck. But that is what hurt her ankle. Like, it's just so funny.
Dude, sometimes it'd be like that when you roll an ankle. It's not like, what you expect. Anyway.
You're not like running a marathon or something, right?
We also never mentioned the point near the end of the movie where, what's his name? Matthew? He, like, holds on to Elizabeth and she kind of just, like, fades away. Like, her husk was, like, collapses it in on itself.
That was terrifying.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then she was just standing completely naked in, like, the bushes behind him. I was like, all right, like 70s movie. And then I didn't remember that she actually just runs around naked for the rest of the movie. I was just like, man, in the 70s, they were going for it. And then also, like, the actress, like, good on her, I guess. Like, yeah. Wild.
Yeah, well, and I was gonna say too, the scene where Donald Sutherland like freaks out and he just starts fucking like just bashing the carbon copies, like, and they like act, like he's going in on like that one, like his face or whatever, and it's like concaving and stuff. Like, it was actually way more brutal than I thought this movie was gonna show, which like I was pretty impressed about. Rowan was a happy boy.
Yeah, that's like,
and of course Veronica Cartwright spilling with her theories. She's right, and nobody listens to her. I'm just saying. Every movie they should just listen to Veronica Cartwright, but they never do.
Well, they do listen to her, but then a pug with a human face runs out and scares them. I mean, I would scream too if I saw that while I was walking down the road. So,
but I love that she's just like, fuck this shit, and she got her fucking stone face on and she's ready to go.
I was gonna say, before we get into the rating, I was talking about the iconic ending scene. I feel like that's the scene that probably most people are familiar with, because even if you haven't seen the movie, like any lists I've ever seen, like on a Watch Mojo list or anything, like that is the scene of Donald Sutherland, which, I think could possibly ruin it for everybody, because once these things make that sound in the movie, you're like, like by the end of this movie, Donald Sutherland is going to turn into one of these things. Although I wasn't really sure how. Like, I thought he destroyed his copy, so I was like, I think he's clear. I'm not sure how this is going to happen. But yeah, just I guess your guys' thoughts on, that iconic ending scene, and I don't know, did it surprise you?
So it obviously didn't surprise me because, like you said, it's so iconic. And I'm going back to the first time I watched it, right? But I do think the movie plays a little fast and loose with what the pod people, like, do.
Yeah.
Like, they're very much, like, faking you out in that final scene, like, well, before the final scene, sorry, when he's still, like, doing his role at the health department. He's, like, cutting out the newspapers like he would as a human and all that. There's even, like, he's not completely, like, blank-faced, like, the entire time. So I'm like...
Yeah, like, okay, he almost looks confused a few times.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and he's, like, looking at his colleagues who are walking down the hallway and whatnot. So I was just kind of like... It's another aspect of the movie that I'm like, I wish it was just internally consistent. But it is for a good reason, right? Like, it is a surprise. And when I watched it the first time, obviously I knew that scene was coming, but for whatever reason, I was still surprised that it was specifically this second, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a really strong scene. I don't know if it makes sense if you back up 30 seconds. It was something where I was like, okay, like, when specifically did he get captured? Like, I rewound, like, the 2 minutes. I was like, oh, okay, no, the flashlight does fall on him when he's hiding under the dock or whatever. Yeah, it works for me. There's a reason it's iconic. What about you, Mike?
Well, go back to the first time I saw it, and I feel like because I was that young, I like knew about the movie, but I don't think I'd ever seen that like actually seen
the shot.
Footage of the shot. Yeah. And I was not okay for about a week after. Like literally there are only a few things when I like that I watched when I was like in my like teen starting to watch horror movie years that like truly made me not okay. One of them was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and this is one of them. And I never forgot it, and like I would just close my eyes and see it sometimes and just like my skin would crawl. And I thought, and I hadn't watched it for a very long time, and I thought there's no way that I'm going to like still feel that this is effective after seeing it a couple times and all these years, but like I feel like it still is. I knew it was coming. I was literally waiting. I was there like just gripping my chair like I know this is about to happen. And I still felt like that drop in my stomach. I'm like, fuck. Like,
but that's kind of how I felt too. Like I also kind of predicted it coming, but still was kind of shocked at, you know, how it was executed and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the actors are really charming and stuff, and it's so you fall for that, like, you know, that like kind of fake movie charm and feel bad.
The noise as well that they make.
Yeah,
is really good as well.
It is
like,
terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
That's what they wanted you to hate, so that's a good thing. Yeah, I felt the same way. Like the sound is definitely very piercing. I was like, this is super effective, and it's just jarring anytime in the movie when they make the sound.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because it doesn't happen for the whole movie. They only start doing it like partway through, and then it kind of ramps up and it keeps happening more often. It's like, oh, okay, this is starting to be a thing. This is going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you guys ready to land the plane on this one and rate it?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, I think so.
So, if you are new to the show, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Colton, this was your pick. What would you rate Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Oh God, you're starting off with me, and I feel like I've been the most negative on it. It's a tough one for me because, like, over the course of the discussion, like, I think we pointed out a lot of things I really enjoyed about the movie or specific scenes and whatnot. But as I skim through my notes, I don't know. It's a little bit of a mixed bag. I feel like this is a movie that features a lot of good sci-fi horror scenes with a lot of dull scenes in between. And I know, like, Mike specifically liked a little bit more of, like, the dialogue or kind of the characters socializing with each other. But for me, a lot of it was, like, set dressing, and I kind of take it or leave it. And specifically the runtime, with it being, like, an hour and 55 minutes, where the other adaptations are, like, an hour 20 to an hour and 30. I was really feeling the length on this one. What I'll say is that I really like what it's doing conceptually. I think a lot of the creature effects and gore like surprised me and were like a lot better executed than I expected. And yeah, I don't know. I like a lot of it, but it's kind of like the pacing and the cinematography and the fact of what Rowan was saying, and we kind of got into it. A lot of the narrative things don't necessarily pay off, or some of them are a little bit confusing. Like I didn't really understand why Jeff Goldblum's nose was bleeding at the bathhouse scene. Then I was like, okay, it's because he's being replicated to a degree, or what is this? And then like the effect was really bad. I didn't know what it was. So I had to do some reading up on the movie to fully understand everything. And I feel like you understand even more if you watch the previous adaptation, and you probably understand even more if you read the novel. So I don't know if it really holds 100% on its own. God, so where does that leave me? I think I have to be like true to myself, and I'll give it a strong okay. It's not something that I would like if someone was like, you want to watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I'll be like, sure, I'd watch like the 93 one right now because I haven't seen it, but like I'm not gonna watch the 76 one like anytime soon again. You know, I'll give it another couple of years before I check it out again. I'll give it a very strong okay. It's right there on the cusp of being really good for me. It's just, you know, there's enough detractors that kind of pull it down a little bit. What about you, Jill? You were a first-time watcher.
Okay. I am going to also give it an okay. Some things were done really well, but like you said, it was very lengthy, and you can definitely feel that length. That sounds terrible.
Throbbing length?
Yep. So because of that, I will give it an okay. But it had a really nice, like, unsettling mood. I don't know. I liked it, but too long. How about you, Rowan?
Yeah. So I'm going to give it a soft yay. I actually really enjoyed this watching it. I enjoyed it so much. I know I'd brought up when we found out it was a pick. I was like, man, I know Kino Lorber just put out the 4K of it. And I was like, should I just buy the 4K? And I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to watch it first. And I've got it in my cart now. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to pick up the 4K. I really enjoyed it. Now, full disclosure, I don't know if it's because I took a little break in between to go grab some McDonald's and then come back. So
what did you get?
I had chicken nuggets.
Oh, good. Okay.
They were delicious. And yeah, but I really enjoyed it. There was some narrative issues with it, but overall, I felt like I would revisit it and I would definitely recommend it. So yeah, I'll give it a light yay. What about you, Mike?
Oh, it's a hard yay for me. It's bordering on slay.
Oh, wow.
Because no, but just let me. I understand all of the kind of critique of it, and I don't disagree with a lot of it. But I was kind of I have always looked at it with nostalgic rosy glasses, and I was really not thinking that this rewatch was going to hold up even remotely well, but it did. Maybe it was because I was watching it with somebody else who hadn't seen it for the first time, so maybe if I was just watching it by myself, it wouldn't have been. But honestly, I just feel like the things that I enjoy about it outweigh the little loose threads that you're pulling at to try to unravel it. So and like I said, some of the stuff that people don't like about it, I loved the 70s book launch party. I thought that was so much fun. And I get it, and it is overlong, but also that's just literally 90% of late 70s horror and thrillers or anything really. And that's kind of a problem with a lot of movies from that era, so I'm not gonna hold it too much against this one because I just really enjoyed it, and it held up to me on another viewing. And there's a couple of really creepy ass moments, and frankly I'm a sucker for something that is causing me existential dread, and this does. And I like that it interrogates, that existentialism, even if obviously it falls apart in the third act, but
for sure.
Whatever. I thought it was great. Would I shave 20 minutes off of it? Yes. And then it would be a slice. So that's my 2 cents right there. Hard yay, for sure.
That's fair.
So we told you what we thought about it, and we asked what you thought about the movie. We had one person write in on Instagram. Their IG is Lana Del Beer.
Love it.
And they said, I can't hear Amazing Grace without thinking of this ending.
Yeah.
So good. So yeah, I think we definitely, we talked about that Amazing Grace, which is used 3 or 4 times in this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's playing at the beginning. That the guy that gets mixed with his dog plays it 2 or 3 times in the movie.
Oh,
okay. He's always just jamming to it on the park bench. So yeah,
gonna have to put it on the playlist. Amazing Grace.
Bagpipe version.
Bagpipes.
Bagpipe remix.
Yes.
So yeah, I think we're gonna take a trip over to the horrific hotline and see if anyone else had anything to say about Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah, and I think this week we got 2 messages on the hotline, so we'll kick it off with Christopher from Columbus, which I got a feeling that's not your real name, but that's all right. We'll leave it at that.
If it is, congratulations to your parents for naming you that.
Okay. No, congratulations to you.
Hello, everybody there at It's Slay's podcast. This is Christopher from Columbus calling. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Anyway, I just wanted to say to you guys I was excited to hear Invasion of the Body Snatchers was the next movie you guys were going to review. I'm sure you guys have touched all the bases. I just have a couple of notes. I saw this as a kid, probably, 5 or 6, at my grandparents' house. I mean, when HBO was brand new, when it was the box and it was attached, corded to the TV with 40 switches on it. Anyway, I saw this and it left an impression. at an early age, and mainly it was that freaking dog, man. That dog was nightmare fuel for me for years. And this watch, I watched it, and it wasn't as nearly as scary as my mind, my memory, my whatever neurons were firing had created it, because in my mind, the special effects were flawless. Like, that was one of the most terrifying things I had seen. I even remember, if I remember correctly, like, I buried my face in my grandparents' like red and brown plaid, most uncomfortable, scratchy couch material. I think I even yelped. I don't even think I got a scream, or I think I just yelped. But yeah, that was one of the most terrifying. I dreamed about that, had nightmares about that for years. The other thing I remembered was the glove, Leonard Nimoy's glove. It was distracting. Even as a kid, I was like, what is he doing with that? Like, I don't know if was he going bow hunting after his book signing? Was he going to bag some whitetails? Like, I don't know what he was going to do. But anyway, interesting costume choice right there.
Mm-hmm.
This watch, I think a couple things that I remembered was I loved it when Donald Sutherland and Brooke Adams are going through the medicine cabinet, and she finds the speed, and she's like, it says take 1, and Donald Sutherland says take 5, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've been to that party. Yep. They'll be up for a while. That should do it. They'll be up for probably until the Clinton administration comes around. The other thing was, I think shortly after that scene was the David. They say David when they're being confronted by Leonard Nimoy so many times that I couldn't help but have Alexis Rose in the back of my head just going, ooh, David, 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 for that entire scene. So I thought that was pretty funny. But I'm taking up too much of your time. Just wanted to call and say, thanks as a good reminder of what I was going through as a kid. Any excuse to watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So keep on slaying and Demonite forever. Bye.
Yes.
That's so sweet.
Oh, that was an awesome voicemail, yeah.
I love any call that ends with Demonite forever, because I live by those words also.
You do.
I like that his idea of like childhood trauma was the dog, like the dog with the human face, because as a kid, for me, it was just the raptors in the kitchen scene from Jurassic Park, as we mentioned on the episode.
Yes.
And when I went back and watched that scene, I was like, holy shit, this still holds up. It's terrifying. But I love that for him, like, the scene wasn't the way it was. But for us, I was like, man, that was still a really good scene. And then also, I feel like everyone's grandparents had, like, that sort of, like, plaid scratchy couch as well.
Yeah. Oh, so, yeah. Just a real piece of shit.
The Chesterfield, if you will.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
course,
100%. Yeah. So thanks for calling in, Chris. And let's kick it over to... From Columbus, yeah. And let's kick it over to our tried and true fan, Nicholas.
Right, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. To make it shorter this time, it's a brilliant movie. It surpasses the first adaptation by Don Siegel from the 50s, at least a bit, mostly due to the brilliant actors, Donald Sutherland, Jeff Goldblum, Veronica Cartwright, was it Leonard Nimoy? Yeah, great, and it's... perfect practical effects when it comes to the doubles, and actually there's one very well made gory scene where Donald Sutherland caves in his double's face.
Yeah.
Overall, the movie really catches this kind of paranoia aspect. The music works wonders. I wouldn't listen to it alone, but in combination with some of the pictures we're seeing as a viewer, it's really brilliant. And the movie is fast-paced while it feels kind of slow-paced. I can't really put it into words, but it's just a overall well-made movie. And while I wouldn't say it's 100% perfect, I'd be missing out if I wouldn't give it at least a weak slay, if there is such a thing in your rating system, because I could watch it again and again. And that's basically the perfect movie for a slay, I'd say. So it's entertaining and a bit challenging. You can go into an interpretative area with this movie, which I won't have the time here, but you probably did. So thank you for choosing this movie, and yeah, hear from you next time.
I don't know if we went really in depth with all the interpretations. I feel like Jill tried to, and we just turned it into would we become a pod person or not.
What can I do here, man? What can I do?
Yeah, you're trying, but you got to deal with three knuckleheads. So,
yeah,
but yeah, no, I'm glad that Nicholas enjoyed the movie so much, and thanks for editing down your voicemail as well. And keeping it below 2 minutes. That's helpful as well.
We like to give Jill some time to talk sometimes, also. So.
Sometimes
it helps us, when she's trying to keep us in line, gives her more time. But yeah, Nicholas kind of saying what I was saying is I felt the length was all right. Like I didn't notice it very much. So I feel the same, Nicholas. I feel like the overall horror community is going to like you the best. Cause I feel like most people, this is kind of like iconic.
Oh yeah.
In that slay category. And I just did want to say, Nicholas, never worry about is that part of our rating system, because do we ever properly follow the rating system? I mean, usually not. So
yeah, I think we play fast and loose with it a little bit, with the weak and the strong and the solid, but no, that's great.
Soft and hard.
And throbbing.
Throbbing.
And throbbing. Yeah,
throbbing.
We'll give it a throbbing slay at some point. And if you'd like to leave a voicemail, or if you'd like to call into the show, you can do so at 1-902-418-8620. So yeah, you can send in, you can give a call, you can leave a voicemail through our Instagram, you can do it at the email at itslayspodcast@gmail.com. And all we ask is if you can to keep it concise, keep it, maybe 90 seconds or less, and yeah, we'll react to it and play it on the show. And if you're made it this far in the podcast and you're not already following us on social media, you can also do so at It Slays Podcast. We're basically everywhere. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Slasher, Letterboxd. If it's a social media, we are probably there at It Slays Podcast. And Rowan, go ahead and plug the playlist.
Yeah, so if you're into spooky music, you can go to the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist on Spotify. If you have any problems finding it, you can also go to any of the social media. There's a Linktree link, and just click right on there. It'll take you to it. We put music from movies that we've reviewed or movies that we've loved or iconic horror movies, whether it be score or just, actual mainstream music. Maybe it's Amazing Grace. Maybe we need a bagpipe rendition of Amazing Grace. But yeah, go check it out. Get your spooky music on, because you should be listening to spooky music all year long. And I think other than that, all we have left is to announce our next episode. So it's fallen back on me. It's my pick. And, we're hitting February. So we're hitting Black History Month. So I wanted to pick something in that theme. So we are going to do, I don't think it was it might have been a failed attempt, but it's an attempt and I want to revisit it. Eddie Murphy's film, Vampire in Brooklyn. Directed by horror icon Wes Craven.
Oh, wow. I never knew that detail.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
So, yeah, get our horror comedy on and see what we think of this one. So, yeah, get that in your eye holes and watch it. And, yeah, thanks for all the support, as always, and the calls. Hopefully we keep getting horrific hotline calls, and, you guys might end up just making new ratings, because we are so loose with them. But yeah, thank you for all the support, and we will be back in 2 weeks. I am your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
Bye,
Colton.
it's me. I was trying to let you do your last but not least thing.
No, that's fine. That's all right. You already ruined that forever.
What the hell?
Wow.
See you later.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store. Back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
But the prime time gets.
What with the new Fletch?
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
We've got to return some videotape.